So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining me from today. We're talking about what's new with Halcyon, and in particular, the version 6 release of Halcyon. So, without further ado, let's press on. My name's Giddings. I'm the product manager at Help Systems, and I specialise in the Halcyon brand. So a little bit more about Halcyon as we go further on, but I've got a background in systems management, having been kind of in the game now for probably 25 years. Worked for financial houses, software companies, managed service providers. So I've had a good mixture. So I kind of know and feel some of the pains that our customers feel on a daily basis, and I think that helps, or it helps me anyway. So what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to talk about what version 6 is. For those of you that haven't jumped to version 6 on the Halcyon software, we're going to talk about what it is and how it came about very briefly. We're then going to take a look at what version 6 is. So I'm going to keep the PowerPoint to an absolute minimum today, and I'm going to show you it in real life. And then we'll just have a little bit of a wrap-up at the end where we explain a little bit about what Halcyon do, not just the version 6 stuff, but some of the other things that we look after. And then we'll hopefully have time for some Q&A and a recap towards the end. So, version 6. It's taken us for the best part of 3/4 of a year, really. We started it in kind of January this year. And the green screen developers and the developers that sit not a million miles away from me have churned out over 300 enhancements on the green screen alone, which is absolutely staggering. It never ceases to amaze me. So the idea behind these sessions is just to bring customers up to speed with some of the things that we've done, some of the neat things that we've done. Don't worry, I'm not going to show all 300 today, but I did one at the end of June, and we'll probably do another one in the new year, just to bring you up to speed with some of the things that may be of use for you when you're looking after the eye. Version 6, how do you get it? Well, it's a really straightforward upgrade process. So it's a download from the website, helpsystems.com/Halcyon. The technicians here are more than happy to guide you through or even do the upgrades for you until you're familiar with it. And of course, it's free to maintenance paying customers. We've made the upgrade process very smooth and very slick, and hopefully you won't need too much help, but we're always there just in case you do. So without further ado, let me share my screen and we'll take a look at what version 6 looks like. Okay. So hopefully you can all see my screen now, and many of you will be familiar with this, the Halcyon main menu. If I jump into option 5, which is work with rules, these are where we can create rules, thresholds, criteria, and lastly actions in probably about 20 Halcyon products. And the process for creating a rule and an action is identical throughout all of the products. And we try and keep that consistent as well, so that people haven't got to learn new products each time we release one. So let's have a look at one of the last features that we put into version 6, and that's the ability to monitor for, let's just call them regular messages. If you specify this, so this, I'll backtrack. This is QSysOpera, and what we're looking for here is we're looking for a message not being received, and normally we'd specify a time frame. We'd look for a message not being received. If it was received, Halcyon wouldn't alert. If it wasn't received, at the end of this time frame, so 5 p.m., Halcyon would generate a message and tell you, hey, I haven't seen this message you're looking for. What we've added is this bit here, this period bit here. And what this enables you to do is to say, in my example here, every single day of the week between 9 and 5, I should get a message, but it shouldn't just be one message. I should get a message every 30 minutes. So that's between 9 and 9:30, 9:30 and 10, and so on, right the way through to 5 o'clock. As soon as you receive that message during that 30-minute period, this period counter resets. So, for example, if you don't receive the first message until, let's say, 9:32, Halcyon is going to alert. It's going to tell you about it. If you receive a message during each of one of these 30-minute segments throughout the working day, you'll never hear from Halcyon. So this is great when you have situations where you know you should receive a message, but we've not only put this in message monitoring, so you can do this throughout any message queue. You can also do it through queue hist as well. You can also do it through, when I find it, the audit journal. So anything being written into the audit journal that's regular, you've got that capability there. It's exactly the same process. You specify not received. Let's just jump into this. You specify not received there, and you then specify the time frame and the period where you're looking for it to be received. And again, we'll only alert if it's not received. So it's in the audit journal. It's also in the custom journal. And the custom journal, again, is brand new at version 6. So anybody that's got our level 2, 3, or 4 will automatically get the custom journal upon upgrading. And what the custom journal enables you to do, I think I mentioned this during my last update, but I'll just recap slightly. The custom journal allows you to do very similar things to what you can do with our audit journal manager. So, for example, you specify a file you're interested in monitoring. Mine is the payroll file, something very close to my heart this time of year. And I'm interested in monitoring for updates, so any updates that take place on the payroll file. So this allows you to monitor any application, or sorry, any journaling around application files that you've got. And we found this has been very well received. So as I say, you've got the capability in here to monitor for not received, and as soon as you key in not received, you can look for a particular period. Okay, let's go back up to the top here. Something else I'll mention while on the subject of rules is that we now obviously have the ability to auto export rules. So if you were to come in here and create a new rule, let's just create it, and we'll create it like that. So we've now got a new rule, sequence 685. I can specify up front partitions or systems where I want that new rule to be copied to automatically. Previously, it was a manual process, and you had to use option 13 to export that rule to that remote system. You can still do that manually, but now, against the monitor itself, if you use option 30, you can specify a remote location. So this is another test partition I have in the office here. So you can specify as many as you like in here, and as soon as there's an add, a change, or delete, that rule will get automatically populated. So that's quite powerful. Again, it won't be for everybody. It won't necessarily need to be for every monitor, but you can specify it on a monitor-by-monitor basis. You might have a different set of requirements on output queues, for example, as to the audit journal. Okay, as we move on, quite a lot has changed in and around rules. So let's look at another one in here. So this one here is looking for something being received, and it's looking on QSysOpera, and it's looking for a CPA 4278. And I'm quite sad. That's a a problem with a tape drive, an active file on a tape drive. What you can do now is you can add actions in here. Let's say we want to email that to somebody, so we use a send text command to send an email, an SMS, or a pager message. You've now got this guy here, this repeat. So I can say I want this to go maybe to myself. So that's going to go to my cell phone, and I want it to repeat every 5 minutes. This is key for me. Keeping an eye on active files is key for me. I just don't want one SMS. I might be sleeping. I want that to repeat every 5 minutes. So that's going to repeat, and it's going to resend that SMS to my cell phone every 5 minutes until I either close the alert by maybe replying to it, or I acknowledge the alert. And if you remember, you can either acknowledge alerts from the green screen, and we acknowledge it from in here. We use option 18. So you can acknowledge alerts. You can do it from the enterprise console. You can do it via email. You can do it via SMS. You can do it via your smartphone app as well. So it's going to repeat that until it's closed or acknowledged. So it's just another way of ensuring that we get the message to the right recipient at the right time. Okay. Again, while we're in rules, now this wasn't at version 6, but it's something we put in a while ago, and I thought it's worth a mention. It's something very powerful. We had a requirement. Somebody wanted to monitor I think it was a MySys end-of-day process, and they had one job, and it ran lots and lots of phases. So this one job, it pushed a message to a message queue when it started and finished phases, and they wanted a way to be able to monitor those phases. So the start of the end of day varied. Sometimes it was 6 p.m., sometimes it was 10 p.m. But once the end of day started, those phases take a certain amount of time every single night, irrespective of start time. So we wrote this for them, and it's widely used now, so I thought it's worth mentioning. So this is identical. This is what you're used to. It's just a rule header. So in this example here, we're looking for a message ID. And again, this can be over a message queue or queue hist. You can look for any message. I'm just looking for, I'm looking on QSysOp, and I'm just looking for the word started. And as soon as it started, that's my end of day started. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to alert anybody because they don't really care. What I'm going to do is what we call do a start watch. And the start watch, in effect, gets a stopwatch and it presses start on that stopwatch. So what we're doing, we're starting a watch and we're saying something should happen within X number of minutes. I've said 90. And the something that should happen is this watch ID. So I have a second rule that's linked here. This is the second rule belonging to this watch ID. So this is looking for a message not received. So what we're saying is within 90 minutes, you should receive something else. It could be absolutely anything. I've got it nice and simple. I'm just saying that you should get an ended. That phase has ended. If you don't, I want you to perform an action. And of course, that action can be absolutely anything. If you do, if we do see that ended message within an hour and a half, Halcyon won't tell you about it. And that's just really a continuation of what we try to do. We try and cut down the number of alerts that you have to deal with so that we only send you exceptions. Everybody's very busy. They don't need to see all these alerts. So that's very powerful, and I just thought it was important to show you that. Again, more enhancements in and around rules. We can now monitor by calendar. So whereas before, if I just jump into what we used to do, we had days and times, and that was okay in most situations, but there are times where you may need to specify a particular calendar. So within Halcyon, if I jump back to the main menu, you can create calendars. Halcyon is shipped with a default calendar. So that just has, I think it has Monday to Friday turned on, there in white, and weekends turned off. But you can create your own calendars, and these could be made up of absolutely anything. So if I create a Tuesday calendar, for example, it's all blank to start with. It's all turned off. Everything is blue. So probably the best thing to do is to use F6 bulk add. So let's do it for the next 5 years. And I'm just going to turn Tuesdays on. And I'm going to turn Tuesdays on between 9 AM and 6 PM. So we hit enter there. That's it. We've got our Tuesday calendar. Excuse me. So what we can do now with any Halcyon rule-based product is we can monitor by calendar. So I can come in here and I can say, I only want to monitor this particular issue on a Tuesday. So all you simply do is point to the Tuesday calendar. Now there may be instances where you might want to do something on a Tuesday that's something totally different on everything other than Tuesday 9 till 6. So you just use this inverse mode, and that does that for you. Again, it means you can set things up far in advance. You don't have to wait until 6 or 7 days before. You can set things up and set and forget in effect. Okay, and again, we're still within rules in here. It's just a little one we put in, this console comment. One of our customers asked for this. This is when Halcyon raises an alert, they want to be able to force that you put a comment in. So you can't close an alert unless you put a comment in. And those comments are obviously stored within Halcyon, and they can be reported on and tracked that way. They're just a small thing, but again, I can see it working for some people. Okay. Just going to jump to another machine. And you'll see right at the bottom there, user lists. Within Halcyon and pretty much any rule-based Halcyon product, you can look for users doing something. So if we use this as an example here, you can specify usernames just here. There might be instances where I want to specify 2, 3, or even more usernames. So prior to this enhancement, what you'd have to do is you'd have to create several criteria. So you'd have to create that, and we'd have to specify it maybe for QSIC offer as well. So you'd end up with a number of selection criteria in here. And it's fine, it works. But what we've now done is we've created something called user lists. So it's on the configuration menu. And we've got a number of examples here. So I've got a technical support user list. These can be absolutely anything. All they need to have is an IBM ID. So what we're saying here, we can use wildcards, we can use generics. S means select. So all of these users are on my user list, on my TechSup user list. But I'm omitting, excuse me, I'm omitting anything that's got Dippy in it. So we have a guy who works here called Trevor Dipper. So any of his profiles, he's a tester. He's not included in my group. And I don't want him to ever be included in my group there. So he's omitted from that. But what that enables me to do, if I jump into my work with rules here, and let's go into QSIS Opera again. And page down, you'll see in here, we've got something called a list now. So I can specify TechSup. So we wouldn't need that one. We just specify a generic group of people. Again, just a small thing, but it's going to save you lots and lots of legwork and lots of keystrokes going forward. Just while we're on the subject, again, I mentioned this last time out, but some of you may not has been on there. We announced a whole new product at version 6. So we called it Alert Intelligence, and what it allows you to do, all of these rule-based products within Halcyon, nearly 20 of them now, all have the ability to create rules. So you could get, unless you're careful, inundated with alerts. What Alert Intelligence allows you to do is to group these rules. So what we're saying here is, these are 2 rules that I've got created. I'm saying I only want to alert if both of these happen. So I can link up to 9 rules in here. So if that's happened, and that's not happened, I want 1 alert. Again, it cuts down on the number of alerts. So really, the limitations here are absolutely endless, because you can link rules across maybe message queues, across job log, across output queues, performance, maybe jobs running or jobs not running, and you can really pinpoint some pretty precise monitoring in there. Okay. Now, there's not many customers now that just have 1 partition. So they tend to have Halcyon on all of the partitions they run. We've got some customers with 160 or 170 partitions. So what they've tended to do up until now, they've used something called impenv, and that pulls the whole Halcyon environment from 1 partition into another. And that's fine. But they wanted something a little bit more granular. So what we've now got is this. We've enhanced the export utility. So there are now commands to export, well, admin alerts, substitution variables, remote location groups, calendars, call schedules, system defaults, user authorities, you name it. They can all be exported now. If we just look at maybe 1, calendars, you can even pinpoint calendars. So the calendar we just created, it's called, I think it was called it Tuesday. We could just export that, and we could push that to 1 or to a group of partitions. And all we need to do is to name the partition or group of partitions in there. Again, just little things, but they're designed to make the administrator's life easier and make Halcyon a lot more, a lot simpler to actually use. Okay. Now, those of you that are familiar with Halcyon will probably be familiar with these system defaults. They work in the same way that system values do on the eye, and they control the way Halcyon looks and feels and responds to the way you use it, really. So, for example, in here, you can control maybe the user that Halcyon runs under, the priority, the default message subject, all of those kind of things in here. If I just page down here, we've added a couple of options in here. Default open alert. This is one here. And I'll show you what this is shortly, but we've added this system default, and we've added 1 more. If I show you the other one first, actually, default suspend. So Halcyon typically wakes up every minute. So if you're monitoring for maybe a CPU spike, it's going to tell you about it every minute. What you can do in here is you can say, once you've told me about something, I want you to go to sleep for X number of minutes, maybe 30 minutes. If it's still a problem, tell me again. So we've included a system default that enables you to control that now, and I'll show you how to use that on a rule shortly. So again, cuts down on the number of alerts that you could receive, and just make sure you're not inundated. If I jump into my rules in here, and we'll jump into performance, and let's have a look at sequence 20. So this suspend on alert, we now have the ability to just say default, and it does default to default. So as soon as we tell you about it, we're going to sleep for 30 minutes and then tell you again. So it's set at the default level, and it can be overridden within a particular rule. The other system default that we have enables you to control this guy here, this open alert action. If you specify default, you take the setting from the system default, but again, you can override it. And what this allows you to do, this allows you to say, well, let's talk about this example. What this is doing, this is looking for a job called end of day, not very imaginative. It's looking for a job called end of day. It should be running in Cubase, and I want to alert when it's not running. So when it's not existing, I want you to alert. Now, if that's not running all through the night, I'm going to end up with loads and loads of alerts. But at some stage, that job may start. Backups may finish, the end of day may start. So this open alert action here enables you to say, just close the alert if the problem is no longer valid. So if I come in at 7 AM in the morning and the end of day was maybe 3 or 4 minutes late starting, instead of seeing an alert on my console, I can get this to automatically close it so that I see a live or a current picture as to how the box looks right now. Again, it's not for everybody. It allows you to see a current picture. It cuts down on alerts. It can be set at the default level, but for some things you wouldn't want that, but for others you probably would. Another example, you may have a rule that's monitoring for your ASP hitting 90%. You'd probably want an alert once it hit 90%, but if it always hits 90% during overnight processing but drops down to 83 during the normal working day, you wouldn't potentially want to receive an alert for it. You'd only want to receive an alert or see an alert if it stayed above 90. Again, hopefully you'll make your life a little easier there. I guess something else while we're in here, and I have an example here. It just reminded me when we were talking about disk space growth. Now, disk space grows, everybody accepts that your ASP is going to creep over the year, and it's accepted. It's organic growth. Most things, unless you're archiving away, will grow. But what we now allow you to do is to monitor for used percent change. So if it's changed, or if it's in this example, if it's greater than 5% changed during a period, I want an alert. So you can specify any period here, right up to months. So you might be interested in 12 months. If I've grown by more than 10% in 12 months, I want to know about it. But I guess more typically, you'd have something like this. Tell me if I've grown by more than 5% in, I don't know, a 30-minute period. That would tend to be more of an indication that something's looping, or maybe something's writing away to a physical file or to a spooled file with no gates. So everything's set at no max. Again, it just gives you an early warning sign that things may not be quite right under the covers. And again, you've got the open alert action there. So if that problem disappears, you can have it automatically closed for you. Some of the other changes we've done. Again, I promised I wouldn't cover all 300, but I seem to be making a good attempt at it now. Is the ability to monitor ping, port, and sysmon. I'll explain what this is. The ping allows you to specify an IP address over leaf. So you might be interested in this particular IP address. So you can get Halcyon to ping that address, and when it's not available, i.e. when it's offline, Halcyon can alert you for it, and that's great. So we have customers using this to monitor wireless handheld devices in their factories. We have people using this to monitor doors within a concert arena in London But again, each door has an IP address. So when there's a problem with the door, hey, no one can get out. So they use Halcyon to alert when there's a problem with that door. Now, what we've added in here is the ability to monitor when it's not available, but also when it's available. So when that handheld comes back online, you might want to know about it. We've also added the ability to monitor for when it changes. So when it changes from not available to available, or from available to not available, we'll send you a single alert just to tell you. With these other two options, the port option, specify port in here, you can monitor local or remote ports, and it ensures A, that the port's open, and B, that there's a service running on that particular port. Quite a simple thing, but quite powerful. There's lots of navigator ports that probably should be monitored. Again, we've got a set of templates within the Performance Monitor that can monitor those, but this is just a belt and braces approach, I'd say. The last one, sysmon, what this allows you to do is to say, I want to monitor Halcyon, but I want to monitor it from a different partition. So I could say in here, from my HAL 720 P6 box, I want to monitor Halcyon on another partition. So you can have, lots of people have a central Halcyon instance that monitors all the satellite boxes. You can do that. If you're a managed service provider, you might have a sandbox that does that monitoring. So you can have each of them monitoring each other. Now, on Halcyon anyway, there's a supervisor that restarts if there's a particular problem, and also from the enterprise console, you can also alert if there's a problem with the monitor. This takes it to the next level, really. So this is belt and braces and a little bit more. Okay. The final thing I really want to show you today is the audit journal monitor. We've always had the ability to alert based on entries going in the audit journal. So in here, I might be interested in changes to system values or creations or deletions of objects, and that's fine. So Halcyon alerts you when there's one of those changed. And what that does, it saves querying the audit journal. Audit journals can get absolutely huge. So you just put Halcyon over the top of it, it straddles it, it tells you dynamically within a couple of seconds when something happens. But what we can now do is we can report on those. We've always been able to do that locally, but we can report on them from one central location. Let me show you what I mean. Print audit journal entry. So I might be interested in changes to system values. And I might want this machines, but I might want all my other machines as well. Let's just use P3 as well. Or let's have a look. I think I've got one called QA test. I've got a group called QA test, which includes two boxes. So if I just hit enter on that, what we should see shortly, if that's going to work correctly, that's going away to those other partitions. And we go, it's contacted one of them. These are not the fastest boxes. Yours will be a lot quicker than this. It's then going to contact the other boxes, and it's going to produce a single report, and a single report on the command line that I'm using here. Let me just run that out. There we go. I'm just going to run that with the list option, with the detail option, sorry. So that's going to contact, that's currently contacting the systems that are in my QA test group. And I think there's two in there. And it's going to produce a single consolidated report that's going to show me system value changes across my whole estate. So this is probably something that in reality you schedule either within Halcyon or within the IBM job scheduler, or based on something happening. So there we are, that's finished there. If I just have a look at that spool file. So what you see in here is, this is on my local machine. It tells me who changed it, the job that changed it, what was changed, and more importantly, the before and after values. So that's on the local machine. We've got 525P3, and I've got another machine here. So we've had changes to each system value on that box. I just want to show you an example before we finish as to how you can dovetail other Halcyon products. And what do I mean by that? Well, that report creates a spooled file, and it creates a spooled file on QPrint, and it creates a spool file called print audit journal entry. So I've got an output queue rule looking for that being created, because I don't want to go looking for it when I come in the morning. I've just got an action, and all it's doing is it's emailing directly to me in PDF format that particular spooled file. If I quickly jump into my email, so there we have it. There we have a PDF. If we open that, let's make that a bit larger, and that's exactly what we saw on the green screen. So the key here is not to think about Halcyon products in isolation. They all work and they dovetail very well together. Okay. Now, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Halcyon, really. What do? Well, we monitor, so we keep a vigilant watch on critical IT systems, core applications, and we warn you of potential problems or potential bottlenecks before they impact the organization. So this guy in the middle here is the Enterprise Console. 98% of our customers now have the Enterprise Console. Some rely still on green screen, and that's fine. But also we automate as well. So we want you just to see exceptions on your Enterprise Console, because we want to handle, wherever possible, automation. Because we can automate pretty much anything now, and the guys in support find it a real challenge to automate things, your Enterprise Console should be empty for the vast majority of the time. We can also report, so advanced service level reporting. So our cloud-based reporting solution can prove to management that the IT team is achieving or exceeding service levels required by the business, and also flags any other issues up so they can be quickly resolved. So that's the Halcyon landscape. So that's across IBM I, Windows, AX, and Linux. So what have we seen? Well, we've explored some of the advanced controls you now have in and around rule management with the period option. We've looked at how to use calendars. We took a quick look at Start Watch, which has been in a little while but hasn't been very well publicized. So we can monitor variable start times but definite phases once they've started. We've also looked at how to group users into user lists and how to control the number of alerts you receive via the suspend and the repeat fields. We also talked about some of the more granular options now available in export, so that's system defaults, substitution variables, calendars, all those kind of things. And then we delved into the murky world of centralized audit journal reporting and saw how to automate the delivery of these reports. And finally, we looked at some of the changes around TCP/IP and saw how Halcyon can monitor for ping, port, and for sysmon. So it can monitor itself, it can monitor changes, and it can alert you accordingly. Now, just before we finish, I just want to have a look. Probably got a minute in which to have a look at some of the questions. Just bear with me. We do. We have a couple of questions. Somebody's asked, how do I upgrade Halcyon? Well, it's straightforward. helpsystems.com/Halcyon. And if you go to support, you'll download an installer that will go up to the eye via FTP, and then it's a single command. So it's a halibst/install, and that guides you through the process. But the guys in support are more than happy to guide you through that. In addition, there's something called auto upgrade, and that allows you to upgrade just a single partition and have the others check in with that partition on a regular basis, maybe once a day, to see if there's a later release. And if there is, they'll automatically upgrade themselves. So we've found that's very powerful, particularly with customers that have even more than 5 LPARs. It saves having to go through that process. Okay, second question. We've got a strict change control around upgrades of our OS and our ERP application and tools that live on the box. How does the Halcyon release process work? Good question. We release 3 to 4 times a year, so probably around every quarter. As I said, this last one was huge. It was over 300 enhancements, so 3 to 4 times a year. But if you're uncertain, or you have like our friend here has strict change control, you can actually install Halcyon into a separate environment. So I think most people have a prod environment on a partition. You can install a test Halcyon environment. So that runs in a totally different subsystem. It doesn't impact your existing environment and lets you have a look and a play and may satisfy your change control requirements. And again, the support guys are more than happy to steer you through both that and the auto upgrade function, because again, it's going to save you time. I think I've overrun slightly, so I'll thank you for your time today. My contact details are on the slide there, ash.giddings@helpsystems.com, and thank you very much. Have a wonderful day now. Goodbye.